Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about 1 year in Canadian cannabis sales with 2.0 starting tomorrow, October 17th, as well as some high crimes involving Britain and Vietnam employment, some human trafficking issues, something we definitely didn't see coming. On the line with us is Dan Kimmis, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
Yeah, it's an interesting time of the year, right? I mean, 2.0, and here we go, Canada, as it, matures and grows. I'm excited, Greg.
So for those who don't know, Canada legalized sales in October of last year, 2018, with some limited rollouts. So they could have concentrate, but it could only be CO2 or ethanol. Now they can have butane, propane, all kinds of different solvents. So that will add a lot of different SKUs for concentrates as well as other products, beverages, edibles, opens up a whole lot more SKUs. So hopefully that will increase some of the sales. So this article from Yahoo Finance, it talks about 1 year in with legal Canadian pot sales failing to match the hype. So again, they've kind of been trying to sell with one hand tied behind their back. And then you have provinces like BC where they're not opening up a lot of retail shops or giving out licenses. So that's hindering some sales. So really bad rollout. So this article goes on to say, quote, a year after the country became the first major economy to legalize recreational cannabis, pot sales have lost more than half their values. Retail sales are nearly double those in the illicit market. Sales are well below expectations, and most companies are losing money. To be sure, creating a national market from scratch was never going to be easy, and the highly regulated model has attracted plaudits from around the world. But few in the industry are prepared to call the first year a success, and plenty of challenges lie ahead as new products like vapes and edibles join dried flower on store shelves in December. So apparently Canadians bought $524 million worth of legal cannabis in the first 7 months of 2019, according to Statistics Canada. The sales have been increasing steadily since the first quarter. But a lot of stores, like we mentioned, haven't opened up. And then their major suppliers like Aurora have been warning about its revenues are likely to plateau in the fourth quarter before the new forms of products become available. And it's probably the biggest disappointment with the rollout of retail, like we mentioned in Vancouver, not really offering opportunities to sell. All in all, Dan, very similar to, other rollouts we've seen in the U.S.
Right. And the axiomatic aspect of all of this that would say, yeah, it's going to be a challenge, right? Again, if you're one of the pioneers, you're somebody who's on the ground first and you've built your business, you see things that nobody sees, right? And that's where what makes Canada, I guess, amazing to me, Chronic, is this 2.0 shift, right? Here comes all these new products. Here comes this ability for stores to have maybe enough stuff to migrate from red to black, right? Those kinds of things. And at the same time, if you think about it, it was a year ago and there was nothing. So it feels really fast, even though if you're in the business, man, it can't come quick enough, right? It's an amazing thing.
Right. So this article says that only dried flower and oils are currently available in the legal market. So 2.0 rolls out tomorrow, like we mentioned, but it's going to take until December for those products to actually hit the store shelves. So this leaves a black market to profit from profitable formats like edibles and vapes until they begin to hit store shelves. So Statistics Canada surveyed found that 42% of pot consumers purchased at least some of their pot from illegal sources in the second quarter. And so again, kind of that rolls back to not having enough stores. You have Ontario and Quebec, Canada's two most populous provinces with nearly 23 million people between them, only have 25 stores each. So obviously that's not a lot of stores. And so this is often political, according to the article. And so whatever the reason, the impact is real. Provinces with more brick and mortar stores have sales per capita nearly 2.5 times higher than their counterparts with fewer stores. So not having the supply is an issue, and then having the prices too high. So another reason for the slower than expected sales is the fact that consumers are being asked to pay nearly twice as much per gram in the legal market than the black market for less choice, end quote. So average price per gram fell 3.9% to $10 and change. So nobody wants to pay $10 for, an inferior product.
Well, and then just to compare and contrast, right? Okay, so 25 stores in a province. So in Washington State, depending on who you talk to, between 3 and 400 active stores. Oregon, roughly the same. Okay, again, just to compare and contrast, right? And then, for instance, our buddies at Hexo, right? So Hexo's been in the news. Their stock's been crashing. They're making a move right now, literally today, where they're launching their $125 ounce, as a way to try and, just from a PR standpoint, right, get out in front of some of the news that's been suppressing stock value and see what you can do to, make some noise, right? And then if you think about it, you're like, $125 an ounce. Like in Washington, frankly, I pay about half that. Okay, I pay about half that. And so again, that's where it's got to go to attack that black market. And they're not there yet, brother. They're not there.
Another local example would be Diego Pelissar. I think they started in Florida, but they had a retail shop here in Seattle, downtown in Soto. You walk in, they had marble everywhere, statues, high end. They were selling moon rocks for several $100s, for an eighth or whatever, $10,000 cigar, all kinds of stuff that was really outrageous. They just sold to a wholesaler. So this Nordstrom of cannabis ended up selling to, I don't know, not Value Village, but discount, a very, very cheap discount.
JC Penney.
Yeah, JC Penney, or Circle K, Handy Mart style budget. This Zips bought them and changed everything. Makes absolutely zero sense to me why you would, just, I don't know why they didn't just open up next door, but I guess it had to do with the license. They bought their license and then just kept the same location and then completely remodeled it. So it is a factor with price. People are going in asking, what's the cheapest price I can get with the highest THC, something that fits their budget. And the Nordstrom of cannabis it has no place yet.
Right. I mean, know what you are and create enough of an experience to validate that pricing, right? One of the things that happened with that store is, again, it was an experience, and it was an above average experience, but it wasn't an awe-inspiring experience that caused you to say to yourself, well, I don't care, I'll buy the joint that I can get for $10 somewhere else for 20. Okay. It wasn't that kind of an experience. And you need that. Okay. There's got to be something super cool, right? There has to be.
Mm-hmm. So Canada struggles to develop a functional market post-legalization, and U.S. companies' stocks have been battered as well. So some analysts are saying that there's likely to be a rebound faster and further than the Canadian counterparts here in the U.S. So the biggest U.S. multi-state operators, or MSOs, are already generating more revenue than many of their Canadian peers. There seems to be a bit of a catalyst around the corner that could send them soaring up in the U.S. I think the valuations here in the U.S. there's more private companies. So there's speculation in Canada. Those valuations are crazy. And not only that, but some of the main producers are expecting $1.74 per gram wholesale. That's not going to be realistic. If or when Mexico legalizes, the U.S. will be in this sandwich where Canada, Mexico legal. The U.S. will have to follow, not because they want to, but because they need that revenue, tax revenue from cannabis sales. And so what we'll end up seeing is a massive rollout, probably improper rollouts and fumbling around. But ultimately, that drive to go get some revenue will legalize this country probably within the next 24 to 36 months, maybe even faster if Mexico comes on board. But ultimately, there's going to be a huge amount of speculation into these U.S. stocks, and we've already seen it. There's a company that's very similar to Headset that aggregates data, and they want to be the Headset. They want to copy them. They also want to copy Leafly. They also want to copy some payment processing systems, essentially a blank check company. And there's a lot of investors, over 300 investors investing less than 50,000. Now that's going to put your cap table out of whack, having a lot of investors at such a short dollar amount. But what it shows is that people want to invest in these companies, even if they're never going to achieve anything, which is speculation, which is scary. It's gambling, but it does show demand. Once these companies are legal, there will be a massive amount of investment.
The value of a good pitch deck and a good pitch man, Chronic, right?
Absolutely. We do pitch deck reviews, and some of them are less desirable than others. They leave out a lot of information. So you can always kind of check back with the Talking Hedge on how we review those. To wrap this up, there's a lot of stuff in Canada that there are not expected. Some of the sales weren't expected, some of the rollouts and fumbling around. But I want to kind of jump to Britain real quick and look at some interesting human resource issues. They're actually importing labor illegally from Vietnam. And the US saw imported labor from Jamaica and the Caribbean for sugarcane, primarily in Florida. So it's not that abnormal to fly people in. We've seen Mexican and South American immigrants coming in for US agriculture for decades. So it shouldn't necessarily come as a surprise that Britain's cannabis farmers are predominantly illegal laborers from Vietnam. So there's a report coming out, Confessions of a Cannabis Farmer with the Vietnamese Getting Brits High. Apparently, there's some issues going on where there's multi-billion-dollar black market industry in the UK where Britons are illegally hiding Vietnamese laborers, and some of them are against their will. So not necessarily what we expected right now. There's cheaper alternatives with Colombia, but if you're trying to get into a spot like the UK, I guess they're doing it with human trafficking.
I respectfully disagree. Okay, one of our mantras is, look, cannabis business isn't all that special. If it's in normal business, you're going to see it in cannabis business. Dark, terrible human mannerisms are exposed in all kinds of business, and that there would be, somebody exploiting human trafficking to grow the weed, right? Yeah, I guess in the end, if actually, if you sit back and noodle about it, it's like, well, sure, because there's people exploited in all kinds of different market spaces. Why would this be any different?
Yeah, apparently there's more than 3,100 Vietnamese adults and children that were identified as potential trafficking victims in the UK between 2009 and 2018. And some of them were, the smugglers were charging up to $40,000 for travel documents and plane tickets, and then falling prey to those traffickers. They were end up being forced into forced labor, brothels, and cannabis farms.
Right. I mean, again, a sad reality, right?
Ultimately, the UK just kind of needs to follow suit with Canada and go legalize and regulate this so they can kind of avoid these black market, forced labor production. If they just make it a commodity and sell it, hopefully that'll resolve some issues. Definitely not something I would have expected to see with an agricultural crop. It should just be something that most laborers are able to do. But again, not being legal kind of forces them into this unfortunate situation. So a lot left unknown. You'll have to come back to the Talking Hedge to find out some more. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.